Joined right now by Mr. Sonics himself, Nate McMillan. Welcome to the Black Media Matters studio.
Thank you for having me. It's just I'm happy to be back home, my second home for over 20 years. So good to be back to Seattle.
Yeah, you know, this is definitely a home.
Absolutely.
I know you feel the love when you move around the Emerald City.
Yeah, I mean, even coming in, and I hadn't had the opportunity to get back to Seattle much in the last few years because I've been coaching. But this past year, I've come back several times, and you know, they still remember me. They don't quite recognize me because a little bit more weight, head a little bigger, and all of that. But when I say my name, you know, the people are just so appreciative of the Sonics of the past. So really felt good to come back.
Well, it's good to have you back.
Yeah, well, thank you.
And thanks for taking the time. So this city edition, so this part of the podcast here is not so much on the court and the numbers and the stats, the X's and O's and everything else. It's really about the player experience in the city, like off the court, and also into our community and everything else. So my first question for you is what experience with the Seattle community stands out the most during your time here in Seattle as a player and as a coach?
Well, it was the time that once I got here and got comfortable and made it, you know, I always say that I was the first pick for the Sonics back in '86 in the second round. So I had to make the team. I was the only pick that year, but I had to come here and make the team. And, you know, once I made the team and got comfortable in the city and knew that I was going to be here for a while, I started to get involved in the city. You know, so a lot of things that I did was, you know, with the Rotary. And, you know, a lot of what I was doing in the community when I got comfortable and knew that this was home, it wasn't something that I wanted to broadcast. So I would meet people on the streets and they would talk to me, maybe it's a teacher or, you know, someone with a program, and they would ask to come out and speak to their kids or do something in that community over on Jackson and 23rd. And, you know, if my heart led me to do that, I would do it. So I often did some things in the community that it wasn't on the big screen. The media didn't know about, where my wife and I would provide Christmas gifts for kids. We would do give out groceries during Thanksgiving and Christmas for families. We would have you know, the people over in that community to select, give us a number as far as what do you need, and we would do that, and we did that often without the Sonics really being involved. It was just something that you know, my heart led me to do.
Yeah, that's dope. I know, like, in talking with Jamal Crawford, right, and so he has this once a year, it's the Jamal Clause, and we've been covering it for a long time. But the thing is that's what the public sees, and I think there's a lot of people. He was like, man, the majority of the stuff I do, he said, the public will never know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And Jamal is like, he's been doing that forever, and you know, because we were in the city, we would know. You know, some of the things, or a lot of the things that he was doing. But I think a lot of guys, they do that. And, you know, you know, for some guys, it's not about the publicity or getting the cameras or the news, the media to come out and, you know, beat your chest, look at what I'm doing. It's about, you know, basically giving back to that community. And for me, it was just experiences that I was given that I had lived. You know, those holidays where we didn't have a lot up under the tree, and you know, I experienced that. And now that I could provide I was making enough money where I could buy some toys and buy some Christmas gifts. That meant a lot to me to be able to provide that for families. I think one year my wife and I, we provided Christmas trees, for the families, and doing little small things like that was important to me. And the Sonics had no idea that me and a lot of other guys was doing things like that.
Coming from Raleigh, North Carolina, and coming from the areas that you grew up there, and then staying in North Carolina, going to Chowan and then NC State, how important was it once you made the team for you to find like black community out here in Seattle?
I didn't know anything about Seattle when I was drafted here. I just remember, and my wife and I talk about it, I talk about it all the time. I cried like a baby when I was drafted to Seattle because I had no idea of what was going on out here, the community. All I knew was the Seattle Supersonics and this big curtain in the dome that they used to play at. And I remember seeing that when they would televise the Sonics on TV. So I cried like a baby going to the airport, and at that time she was my girlfriend, and I basically told her that you got to give me a year and to go out here and make this team and get myself set before I marry you. And when I came out, it was like, where is the black community? Because they put us in an apartment in Bellevue when I first came out. And me and Michael Graham was coming out for Summer League that year, and had to play Summer League, and I think we played Summer League over at Seattle U. That's where Summer League was held at. And it was like, man, I was just a young buck coming out here trying to make a life for myself and eventually my family. And I had to get to know the community. And it was different, coming from the South and coming from North Carolina. I wasn't used to partying and the diversity that you saw when you came out to Seattle. Of course, we were in the nightclubs and we were doing things and having fun, but it was diversity in that. We whites and blacks partied together, and it was just a real cool vibe out here in Seattle. That became a place that was very special and remains very special to me.
That's dope. It sounds like then your transition here from North Carolina into Seattle, it was a good fit for you. Did you find any challenges?
Yeah, it really wasn't a whole lot of challenges. As I mentioned, coming from the South, we dated our own, and our community was a black community. That's difficult to find now, and traveling around the country over the years, you're starting to see less and less of our communities, where we know each other in our communities. We know the parents in our communities. We can walk outside and play in our now our neighbors. Those communities, it seems like they've been they've pushed us out to the outside the city limits, and it seemed like those communities no longer exist, but when I grew up, I knew everybody in that community, and now you don't see that as much anymore.
You know, and sitting in front of our iconic wall here, that's a similar story, just even right here in the Central District. When you arrive to the Sonics, the Central District at that time was probably in the 60, 70 percentile of black. It used to be even higher, into the 90 percentile. Right now, they say that it's less than 10%.
Absolutely right.
You know, and so when you talk about those places and spaces, and we'll talk about it more in a bit, but that community, they used to help raise our young people in our community. And one thing about displacement and gentrification is when we've scattered our community, then we've scattered that village that helps raise our youth.
Yes.
Because this neighbor ain't gonna let you do it. There's somebody say, I act up on the bus, people see me on the bus, ooh, I'm gonna tell your mama. Sit down on the metro. And
absolutely.
yeah, loss of community has impacted us here.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, I've traveled all over the country, and I've coached a number of different places, and you're just seeing it all over the country, where I think the black community it's just shrinking. Once it was a thriving and community where it was a village, as we often say. Now you're getting to the point where the community that I grew up in Raleigh, very diverse community, we moved from the south side to the north to northeast Raleigh, and but now those kids in that community have moved out to the counties, and I just see so much change in the youth because of that. And I developed a foundation, the McMillan Foundation, to mentor fatherless boys 10 to 18. And really what I'm finding is that we have to provide programs for our kids, because our kids don't have those programs that I grew up in years ago. They don't have anything to do. So if you don't give kids something to do, they're gonna find something to do, and a lot of times that could lead to some bad things.
That's for sure. And I really want to take a deep dive with you on the Nate McMillan Foundation.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
You see, we got the logo up there, everything.
I see that.
We represent.
That looks good.
Let me tap on one or two here, back from your days, and we're going to go into the foundation. I was telling you earlier, I got a lot of stuff on that. This is a good name dropping opportunity here. Who were some of your closest connections in the Seattle community while you lived here?
Oh man, Lou Hobson was, Lou was really between Bellevue and Seattle. Randy Hope was my barber for a long time. I mean, we still keep in contact, and he was the guy that kept me clean and groomed and looking good growing up. Bruce Lloyd, really good close friend of mine who really from Seattle made sure that we stayed in the right place and we didn't get outside, get into an area or go into some places where we shouldn't be. Pierre Cockrell was another really good friend that was doing some doing some business deals, trying to promote the athletes. And really my close friend, he died years ago, right when I left Seattle. Paul Lawrence was a guy that really was becoming an agent. He had become an agent and was starting to represent, some of the athletes, the football players, the basketball players, baseball players, and he was, doing things like getting us deals with different companies and businesses. But it was a lot of guys around here that were, doing some good things and protecting us, really looking out for our well-being here in this area.
All right. This is something that I talk about a lot. And Bloomberg did an article, I think it was last year, and they talked about when the Sonics left, what did it mean, and what if the Sonics come back. And we'll talk about the Sonics themselves later on. But man, what do you think the Seattle community lost? Matter of fact, let me tell you what I think it lost. You know what I'm saying? But I remember, let me tell you this. The Sonics, I think the NBA as a whole, but I could really speak more of Seattle, the Sonics. Man, the Sonics was part and parcel of the culture.
Absolutely.
More than any other, because like you would see people like Gary up on 23rd and Union, just regularly just getting his haircut or just getting something to eat. You'd see Shud, it goes at Sam Perkins, it goes on at Nate McMillan, like basketball, but especially the Sonics. The Sonics, the Central District, that was our team. This was the Sonics, and even events. And your guy Gary was big, I have this party here and that party there. But that was like it was our thing, and we was welcome in it. And you didn't have to be at some higher level, whatever. You know what I'm saying? A lot of stuff right now, what athletes do, you got to be in the club, one way or another. Either you're a marketing director, or you're a this, or you're a that. The Sonics used to do stuff for everyday people. The players, they used to have stuff for everyday people, and you didn't feel some kind of way. And man, I just remember, growing up, how entrenched it was, and I remember the sense of loss. It was just a big sense of loss that you go up there, and if you go to Earl's now, all those basketball jerseys, they still up there on the wall. But that was the place, and because our Seattle Supersonics loved they community so much, when players visited, you know what I'm saying? When they had the time, you would find the visiting players up in the neighborhood getting something to eat, or maybe they needed a quick touch up or something like that. And so for me, it's like a big sense of loss of community of what we had, and that's what the Sonics brought to us. But I'll flip it to you. What do you think the Seattle lost when the Sonics left?
Well, I would totally agree with that, and that's the same thing that we were just talking about, the young kids in the community. When that community is no longer there, okay, what outlet does the kids have? And the same thing that you can say that with the Sonics. The Sonics are no longer here, and I think the community lost a lot. There was a lot, and still are, a lot of talented players from this area. If you go back from the time that I came into Seattle, and all the NBA players that was from King County, you had the Doug Christie, you had Crawford, you had Nate and all of those guys come up, Brandon Roy. It's been a lot. This was a hotbed for talent, and I think a lot of that was due to the fact that the Sonics were here. And as you mentioned, we would get out during that time, and we would do that when we were on the road. The Sonics team go into our communities, and you want some soul food, or you need to get your hair cut, and you would often go to the black community to get that. I started out getting my hair cut on 23rd and Jackson, and then my barber moved to Renton, and Randy Hope, who cut my hair and started cutting my kids' hair. He moved out, got him a little shop, and but I remember Sam used to go up and get his dreads. up on the Jackson area. So we all, and I think Gary and those guys, I never had my hair cut by Earl, but we knew him. I mean, Earl was like, the guy, but, all of that was a part of the community, and we were a part of the community, so we didn't run from it, we looked for it. And we enjoyed, it was like being at home.
That's a gem right there. We didn't run from it, we looked for it. And
Yeah.
I think that's something to make the Sonics special, and that really the NBA, really special is just that culture. You don't feel distant from the NBA, and we never felt distant from the Sonics. No one had to lure us in. Like I said, it was very, I think about it now, still smiling, all these years later, and I think about that relationship that the players had with our, in such a trusted and respectful, because, this, like I said, these were our guys.
Yes.
These were our guys. You might be able to make it to a Sonic game, you might not. So you might be able to afford to go, you might, but no matter what, these were our guys.
Yeah.
Another reason why we need to get these Sonics back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You mentioned it a little bit earlier, but you know what I'm saying, we're gonna come back to it. Well, first and foremost, how does it feel to be back home?
It feels great. This has always, Seattle has always.
And let me stop you right there.
Yeah.
And my apologies. I meant back home into Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm gonna ask you that again, okay?
I never left there.
Camera.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna ask you again.
All right.
All right. So now you're back home. I know we're your second home, and we feel like it's your first home, but you're back home now in Raleigh. How does it feel?
It feels great. I never left. I have always gone back to Raleigh. Every year that I've been in the NBA, and that's 37, 38 years, I would always go back to Raleigh and connect with the community and my family. I had a big family. A lot of folks have died off, but I have always returned home, and I've always said that when I retired, that I would go back to that community. And I've done that this year. I'm not retired. I'll see what happens here in the next year or so. But that community will always have a place in my heart. And, I go back now because I want to give to that community what that community gave to me. And there's a lot of young kids back there that need some assistance. So I've had the opportunity this last year, having some time to get involved in the community back there and get involved with the kids and, just try to lift that community and extend a hand back, to those folks who extended a hand to me. Right.
And I think part of that extending the hand is Nate McMillan Foundation. A very specific mission. And when you visit the website and you ask about it, it's addressing and mentoring and uplifting our youth that are experiencing fatherlessness, absentee fathers. Now, I know in your story, your father wasn't there, right? And it was all your brothers and your sister, and then you said that it was your brother who really pushed you and kind of came into that role. I mean, all these years later, that is something, it seems like, that stuck with you, an absent father that stuck with you, and that you now have your foundation where that's like the principal role of addressing that in your community.
Yeah. Well, I just don't want kids to, really use that as an excuse. It's going to be some difficult times that you will experience, during that time. But we all do, whether you have a father or not. And I, looking back on my life and my career, I didn't have a father, but I had father figures. I had an older brother. I had coaches. I had teachers. I had I had community fathers, and all of those people played a part in my life. And I look back on the people that were there for me. At the time, I didn't know my coaches had families. I didn't really care because I was a kid. I just wanted to play. But these guys was volunteering their time. They weren't getting paid to show up at practice every single day to teach me to play basketball, football, baseball. We had uniforms. We had equipment. We had transportation to and from our games. We had banquets. And I look back on those days when I was a youth, and I now realize that those people were raising money, volunteering their time away from their families to help me and to provide programs and sports that I could participate in. And they was doing that by raising money with their businesses or their companies, or to buy the equipment and the uniforms for me. And so I want to become that person that was doing those things for me at that time.
Right. And now in our community specifically, with our kids that are growing up without a father or in single parent homes, I'm not a big statistics guy. The numbers sometimes could, bring it down, but 5 times more likely to grow up in poverty, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, 20 times more likely to spend time in prison. And I mean, when we see these numbers, when you're looking at those kind of numbers as well, is that like Nate McMillan Foundation, part of your mission is like, I know it's a big issue nationwide, but in your neck of the woods, these numbers are sobering. These are things you're trying to impact.
Yeah, I look at the numbers, and we know all the numbers, and they're different numbers all over the place. I don't really have to look at the numbers, though, because I've experienced it. Most of the kids in my community, they didn't have a father. I see there's a lot of fathers that are committed to their families, but I know for a fact, because I lived it, that there are a lot of fathers that are not in the homes. And so it's not knocking our community, and you can adjust those numbers any way you want to, but this is something that I know. I've experienced it. I know that good things can come out of this if the kids do, get this assistance, if they are empowered, if they do have some guidance. I often hear in most of the communities that I've been in that, it's gang related. And, I sit and I look at the news, and I hear about ISIS and, all these terror groups. And I often ask myself, we can take a group like that out, but we can't take gangs in our communities out. I just don't understand that something like that is happening in this country and this community, in our communities, and we can't fix that problem.
Yeah, well, I think a big part too is I don't think there's enough honest conversation.
Right.
And
yeah.
you know what?
Yeah.
People are dancing around the issue.
Yes.
And that there is a problem where we have a lot of young people who are out here who have been failed. one way or another. And it is a fight, and it's a fight for our youth. Like here in Seattle, there's a program, FAST, Fathers and Sons Together, because people realize and I think that we're fooling ourselves. And I know that far too often in our community, our mamas carry that burden themselves.
Yes.
They carry that burden. They doing the best that they can. That doesn't mean that a father in the home or a father figure or a mentor or a big brother isn't going to add so much value. There's a little league team here, the CD Panthers. When you were around, it was called CAYA. And I talked to the coaches there, and they talk about that's ground zero for prevention.
Absolutely.
That's ground zero. Programs like FAST are ground zero for prevention. But those are always the people who have to struggle the hardest for resources to get our young people upstream. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of resources out there when they're already in this river. There's rough waters. But there's not enough resources upstream.
And I know that is an issue. And that's why I developed the Nate McMillan Foundation, is to provide, try to provide these kids with some mentorship, a mentorship program. You know, we will, here March 26th through the 29th, we're going to bring our kids on our first camp. So it'll be an overnight camp, and we're going to have some fun. We will be teaching them about it, their social skills. We'll talk to them about etiquettes. We will talk to them about bullying. We're going to talk, have professionals to come in and speak to them about dreaming. Okay, dreaming, I think it's important that kids dream. Whether you're dreaming at night or you're daydreaming, you're dreaming about something that you want. And when you dream about things, then you create a vision of what it is that you want, and then you have to put in place a plan to go out and get it. So you have to dream about it, you have to commit to it, and then you have to go out and do it. And so that's what my foundation is all about. Is we want our kids to dream, we want them to commit, and we want them to do. And we got to stop feeling sorry for ourselves, man. We got to quit. We got to stop blaming folks for the life that we've been given. And we understand that a lot has happened in the history of this country, but we got to quit. I feel like everybody's blaming everybody.
Accountability has been outsourced.
Oh.
We have a real conversation.
Yeah.
These are issues that we face, and it's near and dear to us because these are issues that we're constantly reporting on, unfortunately. And there's uptick in violence, uptick in crime, all these things, emanating out of our community. And where we face a lot of things all at one time, an education gap, an income gap, they're all there, but it's like somewhere in the mix, we still all have to be accountable for ourselves, the situations that we're in and everything else. I was fortunate, like I said, growing up in the Central District. It was the poorest neighborhood in Seattle, but even as poor people, there was a sense of accountability.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? We couldn't run from it. And I think that we've escaped that, and to the detriment of our young people.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with holding young people accountable.
Yes.
There's nothing. And they actually really appreciate that because they know someone cares about them.
They need it. And it's like, we know all of that is happening what are we going to do? Okay, we know that's happening. What are we going to do? And that's what I want to do. I want to go into those communities. I want to go into those churches. I want to go into these groups that are providing these programs and assist with providing some guidance, to these young boys or young men that are growing up, and help them transition from a young man to a man, from going from a boy to a man. And but they have to have programs and people to provide those setups for them, because they want to. Everybody, all these kids want to do something. For us, we want to help them become something. And if you don't give them something to do, they're going to find something to do. And I know if I didn't have those programs back in the day, Parks and Recreation, it wasn't AAU was just getting started, but my mother couldn't afford to give me any money. She had 6 kids, and she had a 7th grade education. She was working 2 jobs. So she couldn't afford to. I couldn't even go to the boys club. You had to pay for a membership there. But Parks and Recreation, the community center, is where I grew up at, where you didn't have to have money to go up there and attend. But there were programs in place that kept me out of. It was a safe place for me to go and develop and play, and it became really that brick in my foundation that I look on now. If I didn't have that, which a lot of kids don't have these days, I don't think I would be sitting here.
Right. Before we move on to Sonics, by the way, I got to follow up with you on your foundation and on your work. Like I said, that's just something that's very near and dear. You know what I'm saying? To us out here. But let me ask you this last question about the foundation. What do you love most, or what is the most fulfilling thing about your work and your mission in the Nate McMillan Foundation?
I love people, man. I love kids. I love helping. I love communicating with them. I love working with them. And I just appreciate, what I was blessed with. Some good people who was not doing things to get ahead or to gain an advantage. They were just doing it because they were volunteering their time at that, back in the day, coaching me. I played baseball, basketball, football, all of those sports. And I had, at each age group, 9 to 12, Little League, played Junior League. I played in the community center until I got to high school. So I didn't play middle school. I was so fearful of getting cut. Back then it was called junior high school. It wasn't middle school, but it was junior high school. And I was so afraid of getting cut that I stayed in Parks and Recreation, where you couldn't get cut. Everybody could play. But I had the talent to play and probably would have made the team. And it wasn't until the 10th grade where, I had outgrown the age to play Parks and Recreation. And my brother said, look, you're going out for the JV high school team. And he knew I would have success, and I did, made the team. And then the rest is really kind of history. It was like I got the confidence, I got a little swag in my step, I got a little belief, but it was other people that got me to that point. And that I know is what our young people need in the communities for them to really to survive.
All right. So what goals do you have for your life, your career, next 5, 10 years?
What goals do I have in my life? I've accomplished really all. I've overachieved. I've been so blessed. Oh my God. Because I dreamed, but I never imagined that I would have the career that I had. And I just, I found faith years ago, and I really understand that if it wasn't for my faith, my family, my friends, I wouldn't be here. And so I'm at peace right now. I think there's another assignment for me, and I think that assignment is this foundation that my spirit has led me to committing to this new assignment in my life, which is the Nate McMillan Foundation, and making that work. So, I'm happy with the good and the bad that I've experienced in my life. I'm married my wife when I got out of after my first year in Seattle. We've been together for 38 years. I got 2 kids who are now grown, and my son is coaching. My daughter is working in Los Angeles. I got 2 grandkids that are like, oh my goodness, that's a different type of love there that my wife and I are now experiencing, grandbabies. So I'm just a blessed man right now.
Let the church say amen.
Amen.
All right. So, it's back to Sonics time here, man. What are you hearing about the Sonics returns? I know you got any kind of inside scoop?
I wish I did, but I'm hearing what I think a lot of other people are hearing, that it's a good chance that they are coming back. And, being in the NBA world, there has always been conversations about the Sonics leaving and the Sonics coming back. And, I think the NBA now, there's been a lot of talk about expansion and adding 2 more teams. And when you look at the landscape of the NBA and where they possibly could place, 2 teams, Seattle is certainly a place that has had a team. We have tradition, we have history. We know that it can work here. It has worked here. We're one of the few teams in the NBA that has a world championship. We have Hall of Famers. And I think that Seattle is just as you mentioned, us back in the 90s, this is a great sports town, and we were supporting at that time the Mariners with Griffey and Rodriguez and Randy and Egger, and the Seahawks had Cortez and all of them boys playing, and you had the Sonics who was busting people and winning 50+ games each and every year, and the Huskies were doing their thing in football, and this city supported all of that. And I got a taste of that again last night at the Sports Star Award, where the sports community came together, and to see everybody together and to see some old faces, it was just a beautiful thing.
Now, let me ask you this. If the Sonics come back, you're Mr. Sonics. So we get the Sonics back. Do you envision yourself any kind of role?
I think I said earlier that I haven't retired from the NBA. So I would love, and I'm praying, and I'm crossing my fingers, and I'm doing all of those things to hope that the Sonics will have their place back in this city, because the city deserves to have that franchise. As I mentioned, the tradition, the history, the talent that we had in the NBA, and we still have. Levine, all those guys are still we still have some guys from the Northwest, from this area, that are in the NBA as we speak.
Yeah, nah, no doubt. I know that.
So did I dodge that question?
No, very effectively. But
No,
as an interviewer,
I'm
I
not.
can take cues.
I'm not retired. I'm not retired. So hey, okay.
You kind of answered my last question, and I got two more things for you. Where you said, my last question was, what excites you the most for the Seattle community? Well, actually, let me put that for you. Because you see, we've never, the Sonics as a team may have left the city, but the city ain't never left the
Right.
Sonics. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And thanks to iconic Sonics and, you know what I'm saying, Sonics Gate and this everyday gear. This isn't even considered retro.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? When you rocking Sonics gear, it's not even considered like, oh, that's the This is like, it's here and now. Like, how do you think, how excited were the fans of Seattle be the Supersonics return and they get something that they deserve that we've never let go of over all these years?
I mean, just think about what those guys or what the guys are doing in the league right now. Steph Curry, LeBron. LeBron is creating history in his years and towards the end of his career. And the fact that, Durant and those guys are playing and they don't get to come to Seattle to play against the Sonics. So it's not only bringing the Sonics here, it's bringing all of that talent here so that they can be on a stage where, it's a great basketball fan base here that enjoys certainly the Sonics, but they enjoy basketball. And to be able to have that opportunity to take your kids or take your youth program to see a Sonics game or to attend a camp. I know that Crawford is trying to do all that he can with his pro-am, but that's the closest. And, I came to the preseason game when Utah and the Clippers came here. Mr. Balmer brought his team back to play a preseason game here. And, that right now the NBA is at a good place, and it would be great for this community to be able to see some of that great talent.
I feel you. How we doing, Brett? If we can say, are you rushing me yet? Are you not rushing me yet? Great. Okay, fantastic. So this is an answer or not answer anything, but I always like to give some space in case there's anything else, you know what I'm saying, that you want to bring up or mention, either about your time here as a Sonic, as a coach, the Nate McMillan Foundation, the future of the Sonics, anything.
I think that Seattle is a great community. I spent over 20 plus years here. My family was born, my kids were born here. My family lived here for over 20 years. My kids graduated from O'Day and Prep, Seattle Prep High School. My son was like, he had an unbelievable career at O'Day for Coach Lumpkin. Lumpkin was like the man, and he went to 4 championships in his days at O'Day. So this is I think it's an awesome community. I love the Northwest. I plan to bring my foundation out here. We have established it, or we're establishing it back in North Carolina, but I do plan to bring my foundation to Seattle as well and do some mentorship out here. So I'm looking to, that I have some time, I'm looking to reconnect with my second home. and it's just a great place to play, live, and looking forward to spending more time.
Well, man, you definitely have to keep us posted on the moves with your foundation. That's something that we want to support and uplift and amplify in any kind of way. Two, yeah, man, this is home. You know what I'm saying? This is home. You know,
it is home.
This is home.
Absolutely.
And Nate McMillan, they call you Mr. Sonics, but you know, in preparing for this interview, remembering you as a youth, watching you and listening to you here today and talking to you, yeah, you Mr. Sonics, but I also would like to say that you're Mr. Commitment.
Yeah.
Because throughout your career, you've shown commitment. You showed commitment to keep playing in basketball. You showed commitment. You went over to Chowan. You showed commitment when you went to NC State. You showed commitment here as a player, stayed here your whole career. You showed commitment, coached here. You showed commitment throughout your whole time in the NBA. And even beyond that, the commitment to Raleigh, North Carolina, where even though basketball has taken you across the country and around the world, your heart never left Raleigh Wood, and you stayed committed to it. And now you're committed to these young people and addressing something. So today, I say it's Mr. Commitment.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It couldn't have happened without so many people. So many people. I often talk about, when I talk to young people about success, there's always a story, people who experience some success, that there's someone who helped you along the way. There's somebody or bodies that have helped you along the way. So I'm appreciative of that. I understand that. And I think that's my next assignment in life, is to uplift and reach back to these young people and these communities, Raleigh, North Carolina, Seattle, Washington, and give back to some of these communities.
Fantastic. Nate McMillan, thank you.
Thank you for having me.